Morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I heard everybody was at the Deuce yesterday, so you had time to have coffee and not too much sleeping in, but so I just want to thank Cecily for that amazing introduction. I feel like I just met her backstage, and I feel like we've known each other. We both grew up in Miami. We both lived and worked in New Orleans, so thank you for that. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to welcome all 1,600 of you to our great state of Arizona. This amazing turnout is inspiring on so many levels. Yet, I have to say, it's a little bittersweet for me personally at the same time. 8 years ago, our then governor, Jan Brewer, signed the country's most extreme racial profiling law, SB 1070, into law. The measure, which gives local police the power and the green light to harass and detain anyone who looks and sounds foreign, triggered a nationwide boycott of our great state of Arizona. And we lost $253 million in tourism and convention business as a result of it. But a lot has happened since then. For one, most of SB 1070 was struck down as unconstitutional as a result of the ACLU's litigation efforts. Yeah. But more importantly, Joe Arpaio, the Maricopa County Sheriff, whose xenophobic and discriminatory practices actually served as a model for SB 1070, was kicked out of office in 2016, ironically during the very same election when Trump was handed the presidency. Despite the fact that they both ran on the very same anti-immigrant platform supporting racism and bigotry and designed to embolden white nationalist movement in this country, one lost his bid for re-election and the other became the most powerful politician in America. I preface these comments by saying that the ACLU does not oppose or support candidates for office. It's a position we've held for the 100 years that we've been in existence. But I mention these two important political races because they're perfect examples of how elections have consequences for both citizens and non-citizens alike. Anti-immigrant laws like SB 1070 and policing practices that give police or turn police into immigration agents put many immigrants, legal residents, and U.S. citizens at risk for civil rights violations. Shortly after Brewer signed SB 1070 into law, my dad, who's a naturalized citizen from Argentina, asked if he needed to bring his passport when coming to visit me here in Phoenix. I said yes. It was absolutely too risky for him not to. It's fundamentally unfair and fundamentally un-American for my dad to have to endure more questioning or prolonged detention by police simply because he looks and he sounds foreign, simply because he was born elsewhere and has an accent. But that's exactly what's happening now here in Arizona and in cities and towns across the country. Passengers stopped by Arizona's Highway Patrol are ending up in long-term immigration detention, not because they're threats to public safety, but because they don't have driver's licenses to prove their lawful status here. At a courthouse in El Paso, Texas, ICE arrested an undocumented transgender woman as she sought a protective order against her abusive husband. In Montana, a Border Patrol agent questioned two U.S. citizen women for speaking Spanish at a gas station. Since President Trump took office, arrests by Immigration and Customs Enforcement have spiked 40% and spread to places once considered off-limits, like courthouses. These enforcement programs make immigrants feel unwelcome by creating such overwhelming fear that they're afraid to report crimes, participate in court proceedings, or interact with law enforcement. And that negatively affects us all. These programs also pose a threat to our fundamental constitutional rights. They implement the Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, and the constitutional guarantee that we all have, all of us in this room, to be free from discrimination based on race, ethnicity, and national origin, regardless of our immigration status. Arpaio's downfall came as the result of the ACLU. Our litigators fought valiantly for 10 years on behalf of Arpaio's victims, and secured a historic ruling that vindicated the rights of Latinos here in Maricopa County. Arpaio wasn't above the law, and neither is President Donald Trump. When Border Patrol agents, under Trump's direction, took 3-year-old Luna from her father, Ricardo, they locked her in a cage across from his, where he could see her crying but could do absolutely nothing to console her. They were separated and didn't see each other for 9 months. ICE sent Luna to a detention facility in Arizona that's plagued by allegations of sexual abuse. Ricardo was deported to Guatemala. It wasn't until 288 days later that Luna was sent back to join her father in Guatemala. She celebrated her 4th birthday alone in a detention facility here in Arizona. Just imagine being 4 years old and separated from your parents for 288 days. That's a third of your life, an enormous, enormous amount of time for a child. I want to play this video so that you can hear directly from Ricardo about the pain that he felt when Luna was taken away from him.
A mí, cuando ella me la quitaron, fue un separamiento muy brusco. Yo la abracé, ella no se quería soltar, y ella lloraba y lloraba y gritaba lo más fuerte que se podía, llamándome a mí, su papá. Y yo le rogué, yo me hincaba, yo les lloraba. Yo les decía, por favor, no hagan eso conmigo. Y al momento que me quitaron a mi hija, todavía me la dejaron enfrente, al otro lado en otra rejilla, por casi 2 horas para que yo la viera llorar y gritar.
That video, I've seen it a lot of times, but it's always really hard for me to watch. I play this video because I think it's important, and we can't lose sight of the human impact of Trump's family separation policy. Thousands of children were separated from their parents under this inhumane policy. And as a result of the ACLU's litigation efforts, over 2,000 children have been reunited with parents and their family sponsors. We had to form a steering committee to help locate and reunite several hundred parents the government already deported, to reunite them with their children. And we also reached an agreement with the government that will give many reunited families a second shot at asylum. Yeah. Our family separation lawsuit is one of 186 legal actions that the ACLU brought against Trump so far. While litigation is a key strategy, and it's an important strategy for the ACLU, I mean, we're a legal organization and it's what we're known for, it's not the only tactic we're using to resist Trump's policies, primarily because litigation over the long term will do nothing to end this culture war against immigrants. In order to do that, we must leverage the power of the people. Before our nationwide injunction came down in that family separation case, ACLU advocacy mobilized over 40,000 calls to Congress on family separation issues. How many of you in this room made phone calls? We helped marshal thousands of Americans to protest the policy nationwide. Our communications, including 8,000 mentions in the media stories and 26 million video views, kept the separated families front and center in the public conversation. It's important for us to note that the court of public opinion matters just as much as the courts of law. Judges read the papers. This is why every single one of you in this room has an obligation to think and act way outside the lines, because now is not the time for conformity. There's just way too much at stake. I'm hoping by the end of this speech there'll be more people who'll be willing to engage and make those phone calls to politicians. As leaders in your communities, your jobs are to influence people. Influence your team to take on new transformative projects. Why not provide temporary housing to migrants seeking asylum who are being released into your communities every day? Influence your nonprofit boards to make big, audacious asks of those donors to ensure that you have those resources to do the work that's critical to your mission. Why not, from here on out, commit to making $10,000 above asks? One leadership gift at that level can make a huge difference to create lasting change. Influence your company, members of your C-suite team, to engage in socially responsible philanthropy and advocacy, even if it's not part of your culture. Why not ask your company's CEO to issue a statement opposing Greyhound's practice of allowing Border Patrol to search its passengers? Influence your boss to take public positions on social justice issues that are making headlines in your state right now. Why not ask your boss to attend that candidate forum that's happening at the community center down the street? And ask him or her to ask questions about the relationship between your local police and immigration. Influence can be one of your most valuable and impactful gifts to our society, particularly when it's used in a positive way to help reframe or counter the toxic nativist narrative that is so pervasive today in our polarized electoral environment. As we all seek to expand our influence, we need to stay cognizant of the populations we aim to serve. Whether you're working on a university campus, a software engineering firm, a Navy base, or an elementary school, think about the bigger picture and who is being left behind or excluded from your conversations because of lack of power, privilege, or resources. I pursued my MBA because I knew it would help me expand my sphere of influence and serve those populations most in need, like the immigrant communities here in Arizona. Frankly, it was my frustration over the lack of engagement by the Arizona's business community in pushing back against these divisive laws like SB 1070 that brought me to Eller at the University of Arizona. I am forever grateful for the network my MBA program has helped me build and the strong relationships that it allowed me to forge with the people I would have never had the opportunity to meet otherwise. Now, when I pick up the phone and call those business school advisory board members, and I ask them to contact a member of the Arizona legislature to express concerns about XYZ anti-immigrant bill, they're much more likely to say yes, regardless of what political party they belong to. Because they're gonna say yes because I've taken the time to get to know them. They now know that the ACLU isn't some scary fringe group that they have to shy away from. Because they know me, they see that I'm just like them. I'm a mom, I have 3 kids, I sit in traffic, and I'm just trying to make our nation a fairer place for all of us. Our collective power is at its greatest when we come together around a shared vision, combine forces, and think outside the lines. Our collective power and the brilliance of our Constitution will allow us to move forward and become stronger. Again and again, in my years doing this work, I've seen lawyers, professors, social workers, librarians, teachers, doctors, journalists, and scientists, all of them standing up, crossing party lines, and doing the right thing. It's hard, but we need to hold on to some hope as we continue to do our work and tell the stories that need to be told. The powerful have the time, the resources, and the platforms to tell those stories, but the powerless on their own do not have these platforms. But they do have people like you, organizations like the ACLU, who can lift up their voices and speak truth to power. Our work is now more important than ever. I hope you use this weekend and this conference to reflect and recharge. Take care of yourselves and each other. Like many of you, I've spent the past year thinking and talking about what comes next. The road ahead will be hard, it's murky, and it's full of hazards. Here's what I do know, and here's what I can tell you. That we're gonna fight like hell. Turning back is not an option. The brave ACLU clients who walked into courthouses over the past 100 years in the name of fairness, justice, and equality are counting on us to continue fighting for the world we want to live in. People like Mildred and Richard Loving, who stood up for the right to marry. Linda Brown, who took on legal segregation in public schools. High school teacher John Scopes, who stood up for the right to teach evolution in public science classrooms. Fred Korematsu, who challenged the internment of Japanese Americans. Planned Parenthood Executive Director Estelle Griswold, who stood up for her right to contraception. Clarence Gideon, who stood up for the right to a court-appointed attorney if you can't afford one. And finally, Edie Windsor, whose advocacy brought down the Defense of Marriage Act and paved the way for gay marriage for all lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals. All these people overcame great obstacles: racism, religious zealotry, legal segregation, community hostility, violence, uncontrolled police power to tell their story, to make their case, and stand up for their rights. But they didn't do it alone. They were part of a larger movement: Seneca Falls, Montgomery, Selma, Stonewall, where they were supported by lawyers, activists, family members, synagogues, mosques, homeowners associations. I'd like to end with this video about what we're fighting for and why. Who here is from Oregon? Do we have anybody from Oregon? So some of you may be familiar with the No on 105 campaign. It's a regressive ballot measure that the ACLU is working to defeat that would turn Oregon into another show-me-your-papers state like Arizona. Let's go ahead and play that video, please.
My name is Samira.
My name is Andrea.
My name is Saeed.
Valeria. Angel.
Chavi.
Reza.
Carmen.
Dio Bandari.
Kathy.
I'm originally from Somalia.
From the Philippines. Peru.
I'm from Bhutan.
My family is from Mexico.
I was a Somali refugee in Kenya.
I immigrated from Myanmar.
I am a refugee from Bhutan.
I was born in Mexico.
I'm from Iran.
Oregon's been my home for over 25 years.
I've been in Oregon since I was 9.
Since 2008.
Hold on, I need to think about that.
I came here when I was 8 years old.
Since 2015.
2000 and...
From 1997.
40 years.
A little bit more than a year.
2000.
36 years.
We all come from different places.
But we are united by our values.
Helping each other.
Love our neighbor.
Reaching out to those in need.
Welcoming everyone.
Caring for one another.
Standing up for what's right.
We are one people.
One people.
One people and one country.
We will not be divided.
We will not be divided.
We will not be divided.
We are all Oregonians.
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 We are Oregonians.
And we are voting no on Measure 105.
No on 105.
No on 105.
We are voting no.
To protect the place.
To protect the place we call home.
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 To protect the place we call home.
What I love about this video, it is a powerful reminder of what we're fighting for. It's about affirmatively stating our values and vision in a positive manner and in a positive narrative. And these days, in this hyper-partisan political environment where politicians spend way too much time, energy, and resources playing to our fears about immigrants, telling us what they're against, talking about what we're fighting for defies expectations. So I want to thank you all. Stand with us as we fight for the integration and not criminalization of immigrants. Stand with us as we fight for the equal treatment for women, people of color, LGBT individuals, Latinos, Muslims, and other religious minorities. Stand with us as we fight for children like Luna, who deserve to sleep soundly, just like every other child. And stand with the ACLU as we fight for all of you. Thank you very much, and don't forget to vote on November 6th.